Hello, everyone, and welcome to another webisode of All Politics Are Local. I'm WSAV.com now reporter John Dowding. Every week, we're taking the time to break down some of those big headlines coming from Washington, D.C. to see how it's impacting us right here in the Coastal Empire and Low Country. As always, we're joined by WSAV Washington correspondent Kellie Myers. Hey, Kellie, how are you doing today? Well, I'll bring you up.
I'm doing well, John. How are you? Thanks for having me, as always.
Of course, I'm doing well. We have a busy day here in Georgia, in Chatham County. Across the state. A couple of the states you're covering too, big busy days with election day. But so, we're seeing a bunch of different races. I honestly was overwhelmed by how long my absentee ballot was. So there's a lot of things we're looking at. Biggest thing is I kind of want to talk with you about was here in Georgia. We're going to be, both our senators are up for election. David Perdue's term is out, so he's running again for re-election, and he's facing some Democratic challengers. And our other Senator, Kelly Loeffler, she replaced former Senator Johnny Isakson's seat, and so she's running in a special election to be able to finish out his term. But she's also facing some big challengers, not just Democratic side, but on the Republican side. So that's kind of so Kellie, what are you looking at today? I know you're going to be keeping your eyes and ears you're going to be keeping your ears out, talking to everybody, seeing what's going on. But what are you looking for today ahead of this primary election day?
Yeah, well, like you said, I mean, even here in Washington, D.C., we're looking at what's happening in Georgia. Just like you said, there are these two major seats open with the outgoing of Senator Isaacson and Loeffler coming in. She's facing off, like you said, against a Republican in the House who is a big member of the impeachment squad. He is in Savannah today, I believe, as well. He's been circling the state. We've been in touch with him from up here. Republican Congressman Doug Collins. And like you said, with Perdue, we have a lot of Democrats that are vying to face him in November, and we're hearing that that's also could be something that goes to Democrats as well. So we're really watching these seats. So we're looking out to see if we'll be working with one of those potential candidates come November as they maybe become the next senator for Georgia. So there's a lot going on there, like you said today. I know you have a lot of other seats up as well, but for us, looking out for those two Senate seats, man, that's big.
Literally, you said it perfectly, man. That's it. That's a lot.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, it's not just those two Senate seats too that we're looking at. Our Representative Buddy Carter is up for re-election as well. I've seen a bunch of signs everywhere. He's facing 3 Democratic challenges, so it's interesting to see who is going to come out on top with that. Different court judges, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, just wanted to quickly touch base with you on that. Definitely, like you said, a lot's going to be up for grabs. Also, too, we forgot to talk about this before when we were chatting before we started, but also there's a African-American man who's a Democrat who's challenging Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, right?
Yes. And, in the polling and what we're seeing, he's doing fairly well. Lindsey Graham has held on to this seat. You would think that maybe he's going to continue forward. He chairs these powerful committees up here. But to show that this guy is bringing out a competitive edge in the senator, that's also a really big, interesting race to see. I mean, we're also, like you said, following South Carolina as much as we're looking at Georgia today.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot we're looking out for. And, those of you watching, we'll keep you updated on air on WSAV as well as online and across all our social media platforms. So make sure you stick with us throughout the rest of the day. We'll give you all those election updates as they come into our newsroom, well, our remote newsrooms at this point. But another big thing, talking about party stuff, the Republican National Convention. That was slated to take place in July. Obviously, coronavirus has changed some things, so it was going to get pushed back to August, and it was going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina. However, the president was having issues with the governor there and the mayor of the city because they weren't really sure about having a bunch of people come to their city during coronavirus for this convention. So now they're looking at other places, and Savannah's on their list. Yesterday, Governor Brian Kemp was here in Savannah, giving a tour of the city to some representatives from the Republican National Committee. He toured the Savannah Convention Center on Hutchinson Island, and he was walking around downtown, showing them the hostess city. So Kellie, this is kind of a big deal for us here in the hostess city. what are some other, because obviously Savannah isn't the only place on their list. What are some other places they're looking at?
Well, you know, if I had to bet, and I've been saying this to people here too, that you really should pick somewhere in Georgia, because just like we said, there are so many seats, and there's a chance that this could go blue in some of these Senate seats. So to pick that state to amplify your message, to rouse up the Republican Party and get them excited about this November, that would be a good state to choose. So I think Georgia's on the list, Florida. I've even heard some people mention Las Vegas. But like you said, they originally want to have it in Charlotte. The governor there said, you know, if you can't work with us on scaling it down and bringing it and give us a plan for what you suggest that would look like, I don't see how we can make this happen. And there hasn't been that final decision. But as you said, they are like, look somewhere else now. We're going to check out some other spots. So we're waiting to see what that looks like. But even for us covering it, you know, it's all going to look different with what's happening in the pandemic.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing. I also heard too that Jacksonville, 2 hours down the road here from us in Savannah, that was another place that's being widely considered. I mean, when you just think about it, from a logistical standpoint, I was at the 2016 DNC when it was back in Philly, where both our old stomping grounds, Kellie, and
Yes.
back in Philly at the Wells Fargo Center. And you know, it's one of the big things that I was thinking about when they were considering Savannah. You have access to public transportation. You have an Amtrak station. You have an international airport here. There's one in Charleston. There's one in Jacksonville. So people could always drive here. And Savannah has the hotel space. There's dozens of hotels with hundreds of rooms that are available for these people. Have you talked to any representatives about, you know, these changes going on with the RNC, trying to figure out where they want to have this convention? What have they been saying about this process?
Yeah, I mean, especially lawmakers from Georgia are so eager to bring it to the state because, just like you said, having it in the city there, the opportunity, the economic opportunity, especially coming out of a pandemic, and then being able to bring it back like that would be amazing. I mean, North Carolina lawmakers I heard from are upset to see it go if it does go because of all the planning and the economic loss they would get from them pulling out. But I also talked with a Democratic lawmaker, G.K. Butterfield, in the state, saying he understands the need for the scaled back. He hopes that they don't have to pull away, of course, but you know they have to do it in a safe way. So it's really balancing both the safety of their economy and the safety of the people.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be those weird considerations no one's had to ever consider with any of these conventions. You never had to worry about a pandemic that and putting so many people together in one space.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's so many challenges of this new normal we have to face right now. It's come at a weird time for a lot that's going on. But there's something else, switching gears here, talking about election stuff and kind of 2020, talking about, you know, what's been going on in recent weeks, all the different Black Lives Matter protests in the week. The death of George Floyd. Today, they're having his funeral service in Houston. Earlier this morning on the Today Show about it. And so one of the big things that has been brought up into national conversation is the idea of defunding police departments. The Minneapolis City Council voted that they're going to do that. And recently, Democrats, I believe it was yesterday, rolled out a police reform bill. They had a ceremonial kneeling in the Capitol Visitor Center for 8 seconds, you know, to show their support and all that. And so we're seeing that even on a federal level, not just at a state and local level and cities, we're seeing on a federal level, some of our politicians are taking action because of this. So Kellie, you're the one in DC with your eyes and ears out. What is this bill? What is the parameters of this bill, I should say? What can we expect from it? And what are people saying about it?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was House and Senate Democrats coming together yesterday. Members of the Congressional Black Caucus had this press conference introducing this bill, their Justice and Policing Act, banning chokeholds. What it doesn't do, and I think to clarify that it's not necessarily taking any money away, but it isn't adding. There's some things that Republicans I talked with yesterday from Georgia, Jody Heiss, Bucky Carter, and we're going to play a soundbite from Congressman Carter here in a second, that there's some things that they tell me they can get on board with, but there were two things that they said. One, they hadn't read the text of the bill yet, which hadn't been released. They hadn't received it yet. And another, which Congressman Carter said, and you'll hear this in a minute, they weren't asked for their input, which is where he was frustrated. He said, not only are we not invited to the table, literally, we aren't back in DC to talk about this with our members, but we didn't even hear from her on drafting this. And he said he wants to be included because, of course, in his district, that's where we saw the Arbery incident and what's happening with that. He says he wants to do something, but to ask him. So we'll take a listen to that too.
I think it's ridiculous, and it's the reason why I'm in the district right now and not in Washington, D.C. It's because Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, does not want Republican input into anything, including something as important as this, something that needs to be done.
So we are looking, as we head into today, what South Carolina, the Black Republican or Senator Tim Scott, he is looking at doing something on his own. He even said to me last week, he wants to add funding for police. So that's a difference there with Democrats and Republicans. Some Republicans, you might hear they want to add money to the police department. Democrats aren't really saying that's an option, but they aren't saying necessarily to fund. They're just looking at reforming it.
I mean, in recent years, we've had some restructuring here in Savannah. We had, way before, we only had a countywide metropolitan police department. Now we have it broken up between a countywide police department and a specific Savannah metro area police department. And I remember, and I don't know how this would play into, these two things would play into it, but you know, when the coronavirus, the effects of that first were being felt, we were hearing that some of the major cuts that were going to be taken across the state were in public safety areas. So it was talking about, I tried to talk to some of our lawmakers on the state level about it, but it was just too early. You know, they had no clue what it would look like. They were just anticipating where these cuts may come from. But one of the biggest things they were saying is that because of coronavirus, police departments may be losing some funding. But now also with this police reform bill, obviously dependent upon whose bill, Democrat or Republicans bill, is the one that, you know, ends up on the president's desk. I think we're definitely going to have to see what impact this is going to have on our local public safety, departments, fire, EMS, police, all those different areas. And, you know, Kellie, before we go, I just want to ask you, have you been hearing anything from some of the other states you're covering about these topics, and specifically in regards to the funding of police? Are we hearing anything in any other major cities in Florida or South Carolina, anywhere else talking about that?
Yeah, and I think because I do cover most of the Southeast region, and I think the majority were either there at that press conference yesterday. We had South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn, North Carolina Congressman G.K. Butterfield, I mentioned, but also talking with Republican members in that state. I think everyone, I'm hearing a resounding let's do something, but I think, as always with what happens here in Congress, it's how are we going to do it? And I think you're going to see House Democrats, this generally will get through in the House, but you're going to see, as we do this pushback from the Republican-controlled Senate, and just to give a glimpse of what we might see in the coming weeks, you're going to see this probably pass the House, make it to the Senate. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer wants a vote on this by July. I'm hearing that the leadership in the Republican Party are working on their own. So it's just going to see how we're going to bring those together, because it does seem like everybody wants to do something. It just is a matter of how they're going to do it.
Yeah, that's definitely, that's a great point you brought up there. So yeah, we're going to just really have to keep our eyes and ears to the ground to see what.
As always.
As always, nothing's changed, has it?
Keep an eye out for you.
Literally. Thank you so much, Kellie, as always, for helping us talk about all these things. There's so much going on lately, so it's great to just have you kind of walk through all these things with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
as always. And you guys can see more of our episodes of All Politics Are Local right now on our website. Just go to wsav.com/allpoliticsarelocal. You can also see more stories from Kellie and our team in Washington, D.C. on the Washington page of our website. That's at wsav.com/Washington. Thank you again so much for watching and sitting down and listening about how just because Washington is so far away from us, it still has a big impact on us right here in Savannah. Thanks so much for watching. I'm John Dowding. We'll see you again next week on All Politics Are Local.